Senator, I really had not planned to ask too much on this topic, or frankly, too much on the budget, because I've reviewed a lot of materials, attended a lot of the meetings, and I've sort of tried to keep up. But
you did.
I cannot help but try to put some focus on something you talked about, and that was pre-K. As you know, my district, there's probably nothing more important to them than their children and their children's education. And for me and for them, it all starts with the little ones, pre-K. And you kind of glossed over what we were doing in pre-K, because I know that the Senate proposed $65 million, and that's the budget that I voted for, was our budget. The House had $0, and they had something called a enhanced kindergarten capacity model that they did for 146. But the end result is that we didn't do the Senate version, and we really didn't do theirs. It seems to me that what we're doing instead is sort of a hybrid of their model, but shifting the burden to the school districts to use their entitlement pre-K dollars. But there's no new pre-K dollars. Am I reading this right?
You're correct.
So what happened here? What about the little ones?
Yeah, so when we went into conference, two different approaches. Like you said, theirs was just right at $147 million that they would just push through the formula. Ours was $65 million on taking kind of a blended approach during those discussions of, could we get to funding both years of the biennium of what we started with HB4. The money wasn't what we felt like available to do that. And so we kind of just went back to the old approach, but said, there's $1.6 billion of pre-K going on, and we're going to encourage schools to be able to do that, the high quality pre-K. And it was just a budget decision. It just came down to dollars.
Right, because I know that this was also one of the governor's priorities, and one that I shared with him, because I think he was looking for even more than the 146. I think he was looking for, I forget, was it 200 plus?
36.
236. So do you, if we're going to do this, do you see the horizon where we'll be able to do more later? Or, what can... how could I explain this to my district when this is, my district doesn't focus on bathrooms. We focus on classrooms. We don't focus on bleachers. We focus on teachers. We don't focus on anything but making sure that our kids, what they need in school. And because I have so many districts that are under recapture, the local folks already feel that they're being beat up enough. And it just seems to me that here, once again, we're just shifting the burden down to the local taxpayers, and do you see any relief in sight?
I do, and let me say it from a couple of different ways. We still continue to negotiate on HB 21 right now. If we can get there in the next few hours, that would be wonderful. But if we can't,
is that a hint for me to hurry up?
Might be a nice way to say that. If we cannot, Senator, I think we all share your concerns about where we go and shifting the burden to our local taxpayers, and that a major rewrite of the formula is due. We also would like to see the ability for our economy to recover. We certainly are adjusting to the transportation dollars that we transferred over, and that's a priority. And if we, invest in the infrastructure, we believe that the economy will benefit as well. I think that the investment in our children is just as important. It's not that we aren't. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars in general revenue that we put into public education, and still I think that we have needs that go unmet. I think that lawmakers like you and I...
we in fact put less GR dollars into publication this time than any other time that I've seen.
No.
Because we're depending more on what I call the recycled dollars, the dollars the school district sent under recapture. We end up sending that back. But true new GR dollars, we're spending less, aren't we?
Yeah, if you look at, we're putting $265 billion into the enrollment growth, and we're putting more money in other areas of the non-FSP, but the formula and how it works, and I think that that is why it is so important that we rewrite the formula. The formula, how it works, has, and it grows, and as those property values grow, the state funding pulls back. And so, the House had their attempt at it. We had our attempt at it. We continue to talk even into this late hour on the 138th day. And I think that we have to, for our property owners, we must do something. When you look at the formula and you look at school finance, this one since 2006, I believe it is, has probably lasted longer than most. I always say when you write a formula, if you can get 6, 8, 10 years out of it, you've really done something because of how those formulas react and how they,
it has been kind of cyclical. But let's get back to the little ones in pre-K. So do you see in the horizon that we might be able to do better for pre-K?
I do.
I mean, something between what we had and what the governor would have loved to have, which I agreed with.
I do, and I think that Governor Abbott, this continues to be a priority. He set something in motion for certain with HB4, saying, we can do better. We can do better with the monies that we have. We can supplement it with some, and I think that option continues. Every 2 years, we'll come back and say, that really was working, and we need to make that a priority. And we have to look at giving the revenue that we have coming in and where we put that on the priority list and potentially take from other programs or add with new revenue.
Right. Senator Rodriguez alluded to the negotiations, and you have too, on HB 21. And my understanding that there's about $500 million that's sort of identified somewhere in the budget to cover HB 21. Is that true?
I believe so. I know that would be more appropriate probably for Senator Nelson. She was able to keep a running ledger of where the money is, and so I was so focused on landing Article 3 with my colleague and our House colleagues and our Senate colleagues and making sure that we could find a way to work out our differences. So I'm not sure what the total ledger is.
Mr. President, if we can ask Senator Nelson the question that she's yielding on.
I need to hear exactly what number it is that Senator Garcia is asking.
My understanding is...
Members, hold on. Okay. Senator Garcia, would you mind repeating your question for Senator Nelson's benefit?
Sure. If Senator Kolkhorst, you've yielded?
I will yield.
All right. Senator, my question, we were talking about HB 21, which is still in negotiation, and my understanding was that there was around $500 million to cover what HB 21 would require. If negotiations fall through, what happens to those $500 million that have been identified? Can we use some of that for pre-K?
Senator Garcia, the monies that we would have allocated for House Bill 21 had it passed are not included in the budget that is before you. Had that bill passed, we would have accommodated that. There were several ways that we could have used to accommodate for it, but it's not included in here.
So if negotiations go well and the conferees decide something and it passes in the midnight hours tonight, how do we cover the 500?
We will come back and ask, depending on what the outcome is and what specific items are included or not included, we'll come back and have that discussion. It is not enumerated anywhere in what you're looking at right now.
All right, so that would just kind of be in limbo somewhere?
No,
I guess I'm trying to decide, I mean, if they did decide, I mean, if we did come to agreement.
Right. There are many ways that we can accommodate that.
Before session ends on Monday?
Yes.
Well, I look forward to see how that works out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And just, no, I think that would probably handle it then, because I was more curious about what happens to those $500 million, because I thought it was already in here. But Well, thank you again for all your hard work and
Thank
for
you.
answering my questions.
Thank you, Senator Garcia, for being very involved in the Finance Committee. You attended many of the meetings and stayed up on top of things, and I know your district appreciates that, and the state is better for it.
Sure,
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Garcia.
President.